for the City of Oconomowoc for Tuesday, October 15th. Next on our agenda is to discussions and updates on the Village Green project. Mr. Herzog.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We'll get started. I just want to bring back a few things that we had talked about last council meeting in regards to the Village Green and the improvements that we have in this area, or potentially a lot of new amenities and features inside of it. So I'll kind of go through quick, as we've seen many of these things, a lot of small updates, but nonetheless, I just wanted to give you an update and some discussion so that we can get some direction on moving forward. So again, this is our new site. It absorbs the parking lot to the north and flips it to on-street parking, and the structure here is kind of set up. So some of the new stuff we had discussed, I got feedback from last time, or some of the circles, if you will, and pushing the perimeter out and basically opening up the space as much as we can. There's some details in the renderings, but the majority of the project is still laid out very similar, and wanted to go through. One of the big components of this would be the bathrooms and the entertainment stage. It is a projected roof with columns and a variety of some options inside of that. The bathrooms are flanked on either side. Kind of see it from a few different views. The boardwalk this would be the new section along the west side of the lake, the east side of the project. The gateway looking into the park. You'll see a lot of the additional seating along that we had talked about before, trying to get some of the additional park seating, utilizing the space as wide as we can. This would be the corner of the lake and the new section of the boardwalk, and adding this area in here and improving the site. Really unusable space right now, so we're really gaining some space here, some walking in connection to the path and to the park. There's a lot of options with lighting. We had discussed this before. The seating provides a lot of the electricity and conveyance for that. Opening up the park so that it can be, kind of viewed from the night entertainment, night events. The building has a lot of options too on trying to provide some of that into the park.
I like, can you go back to a couple slides there? Yeah, oh, go one bar, yeah. I like some of that look now on the side of the building better, like more stone, more natural looking.
A lot better than the last one.
Yeah, basically it cleans up their windows, their door access, and painting the side there.
One question I had for you, Jason, on the, you've got these spots like the little green spaces here that are in the forefront of the picture. Is that not walkable green space? Like some of it looks like it's ferns or something. Is all that space going to be ferns?
Yeah, so basically you're talking about like in this area.
Yeah.
Right now it's just shown in the rendering as, vegetation. Now if there are shrubs or if there are perennials or a variety of those things in there, the idea here would be to allow this to be flexible so that you can still use the events to open up your space for some of the larger events. Oftentimes these events with these tents are in our non-growing seasons, so they would be available to be used. This is roughly the same footprint as what the German Christmas market has right now. The tents are slightly off, but this is all the infrastructure they have. I've laid this out with twice as many of these huts, so I know this can fit. But you can see the reasoning why trying to push back the seating here along the east side is so critical, as this is a pinch point currently. So really trying to provide as much space as we can. So there's a lot of security goes along here. You can get food trucks. They're showing 2 here and 2 along this side. Just some options on what could be provided for this. I really wanted to focus in up on this corner up here, as it kind of transitions from the sidewalk into your restrooms. Didn't want everybody staring at restrooms as you're driving by, but still being close enough proximity to the walk. The new transformer would have to fit in this area, kind of showing it up in this section here. I believe, there's some opportunity to set a beer tent up in this area. There's also some other space that it possibly could go over in this area. So the thought on this park and this layout is to really maximize some of the flexibility that the park can provide, and where not knowing what could be here. There's talk of, a variety of different events trying to, go inside of this and to be able to be a part of this and use this park for a lot of different options. So, there's a lot of good discussion rolling with that. Want to make this a very usable space, for the events, but also make this a very convenient and accommodating for the other 300 and something days of the year too. So I feel like this park, this layout has really evolved into something that's been accommodating to a variety of different parties and interest, and a lot of the conversations of just trying to, build this park at what it can be. So I hope I heard you well enough last time with a lot of the layouts and some of the details of it. There's definitely more thought that could go into this. Tried to work with each party that, has interest on this site. There's a number of things that could still go here, I think. So want to continue to keep that in mind and to make this, as usable as possible. So does anybody have questions, that pertain to the project, to the layout, to the site that I haven't mentioned?
Just shout out if you have any.
Yeah, I had brought up the piece about number 8 with just the ice skating access piece. I'm just wondering, what are we doing there to make that accessible for ice skating?
Well, a couple things. One, in order to kind of make this usable, just like our boat launch, you would have to simply tie your skates on right on the steps, which I think is very convenient for what you're asking compared to what we have. I take my kids over to the one over the boat launch, and you got to sit on the piers and do it. It's very rough because of the kind of the cross use with the ATVs going in that area and trying to use your, skate on that terrain. So I feel like this is an excellent setup right here. I don't know that it has to be the only one. Maybe both of them can be used. But, since this thing's walking down right to water level, I think this is a great spot.
Okay.
Dogs in the summer, seating, whatever kayak, use has been in this area.
I appreciate the reduction of the circles. I think it'll be a little cheaper, less busy. The only thing that's kind of, when I look at it, there still seems like there's a lot of hard surface in this one little transitionary spot here at the corner of Vino in the parking lot, or et cetera, whatever there.
In the back here?
Yeah, just,
So the idea here was to try to provide and extend some of the public seating,
okay,
maybe with the picnic tables like we have in Oz Plaza.
I see. So you'd have the permanent seating there, but you could also put picnic tables there and some other
Yeah,
stuff.
to really take advantage of some of the tables.
Instead of putting them in the middle of the green space and having it all get
Yeah,
wrapped up
maybe,
and yucked up.
maybe we got a set or a series of those, tables that we have right in, they were locally made, and, they're highly durable for weather, and
Yeah.
they're heavy enough where you just don't pick them up, but you can move them.
Yeah, okay.
We could relocate them, we could, so that's kind of the thought in this area, was to make a little more public use. Right now, it's very unusable. And also make this kind of our ingress egress area of trying to get equipment.
More traffic going through there, you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
At one point, Jason Dvorak was looking at having garage door out onto the green from et cetera. Is that dream gone?
So he's approved, from what I understand, he's approved for 3 half garage doors that could go.
And what would that, I mean, we're putting a planter right in front of him.
Yeah, we haven't, until we kind of get this project going forward, we haven't had strong discussions
So I kind of showed him
with
here.
what he
Half,
wants.
I see. And it's
So
not
they
down
wouldn't
the
go all the way,
bottom.
yes, so they
correct.
would just
Okay,
be able to,
so open up with seating there.
Yeah.
That's kinda
correct.
nice. I like that better.
Yeah, right now they just have like some casement windows in there. And there's 2 not showing right here. I closed these up. They just have them boarded up right now.
Would we be funding the resurfacing of those walls, or would he be applying for a grant? I know he's
Who
open
gets
to
some
it.
facade
This
money?
is just a concept, so
Yeah.
it's up to
Yeah.
them to do their
Yeah.
building.
Yeah,
And we've had the discussions with them, they're aware
They're
of
open
it. They
to do
want to
it.
do something with their building, they're looking for a plan that they can move
Right.
forward with.
And I understand that, but it's also a major, we're showing it here almost like a feature and talking about what we want there. And if they aren't cooperative to do something, then we have,
I think they've kind of switched it because the other one was very much unliked, the other version.
Yeah,
So
I
I think he's just trying to show another concept, but there's nothing here set in stone. I think this developer has been really good about saying, hey, when you guys figure things out, you know, we are more than happy to be engaged in
Yeah,
doing
I
it.
think
And I truly believe they
I
will.
heard a lot that people wanted to close up the stairs, the stairwell, and kind of look at the trash receptacle to improve that. So I kind of focused with some of that, opened up this area a little bit to use for public seating or access.
I think it looks really cool. But again, I go back to one of the first questions I had, which was about some of this other like darker green space. I don't want to see all that turn into ferns and non-usable green space, where if someone wanted to go and lay out there or put chairs there, or just, you know, play around there, it's not a usable green space. It's like just ferns. I mean, some of the spots like along the Et cetera building here, I mean, that makes sense, right? Because you're not gonna, you know,
Yeah.
in some of the
Yeah, it's all
smaller
contained.
spots, but some of the larger green spaces should also be grass. Yeah, and along East Wisconsin, I mean, more of that should be also grass than a non-usable green space.
If you remember, we have some of these pockets right behind the
Yeah.
boardwalk all along here. And they're really rough. They're hard to maintain. They get trampled on a lot. So they are,
Somehow or another
I don't,
dogs get on there.
yeah, so the maintenance of those is tough.
Well, yeah, that's an
And
interesting.
Matt, you're right. I mean, we could make this anything
A
from,
little wider.
And I'm not saying all of it, I'm just saying like some of the larger parcels that aren't just, because the boardwalk, that happens over there because people cut across there to get to the restaurants and stuff behind it, and they cut over it. Here, we'll have the same problem with the main grass area too, but I just don't want to see a lot of that not usable, you know, so like some of the larger parcels, like right here on the lake, that's a cool another green space that people could lay out on and hang out on.
Jason, when this goes out, I think what would also help with those green spaces is for council to see the actual size. Sometimes it's hard to get perspective. Is this 8 feet? Is this 10 feet? Is it 3 feet? So I know you have scale on here, but maybe when we get further in the process, if we had the flexibility of adjusting that, and then we actually just walk out there and say, okay, well, how much is that? Is it this much, or does it make sense or not?
Well, and Jason made a great point, that the green space behind the boardwalk between that and the parking lot gets beat up because you can walk over it. So the only way to do it then is if you want to keep it green, fern-like stuff or whatever, then you got to put a little fence over it or a little something around it, you know, to mostly keep people off of
yeah,
it.
you gotta grow something high enough or put a border around.
And I think what staff is looking at is, I think they've come up with something that we can send out to bid, because we don't know what this is going to cost. And
Yeah, I don't know.
And-
I'll be honest, this is kind of a rough estimate that I asked our architect and engineers to kind of put together.
Wow.
I mean, it's a big site with a lot of stuff on it. It's a total reconstruct. You're talking about relocating parking and taking out sidewalk. The bathrooms are included with a pavilion here, so I mean, you're putting in a lot of stuff into this project here. So I just kind of want to lay this out as this is kind of presented, conservative or not, is, you know, what we're kind of discussing. So I guess this is where we I've taken the engineers and the architects to about as far as I can go right now to give enough information and details for the project like this, and really need to understand, you know, how and what we want to do to move forward.
Yeah.
Jason, you showed last time a scale of where the tent for the German Christmas festival would go, and you said that that does fit? Okay.
I also wanted to show you, I had kind of alluded to it last time, but this is the Elm Park and the Dells that had that seating. This is kind of the look on what they built just last year. So you can kind of get the idea of, you know, what it is and what it looks like lit. Kind of gives the, you know, the park some dimension.
No green space.
No screen space on something like this.
Yeah.
It's Adele's. But if council is comfortable, we'd like to send it out for RFP. From a timing standpoint, we want construction in 2025. And our challenge is that if we don't get this out and then figure out how to fund it, or what we can fund, we have so many events now that utilize that space. We have to pick and choose when to stop and start. And unless there's a disagreement, we'd like to send this out to RFP tomorrow and try to, I know it's not ready for tomorrow, but we'd like to get it out.
Tomorrow-ish.
We already sent it out for RFP, and
Yeah.
You also want
But
to
I
help Bill?
think, but I think it's really important that we can look at it, and I have, just so that you, the council is aware, we have these rough estimates, and at least in this climate, you have no idea where those bids are gonna come in.
Yeah.
And what I've asked Lori and her team in finance to do is look at this and try to see, we have some core funding that we know we need to utilize in 2025. Where are those gaps? Where can that money come from? So that when these come back, you'll have the whole picture, so we can decide to act or move on it in a certain time frame. So I think that it's important to move forward if council, unless you guys disagree on that. Are you guys good? I mean, we'll still be able to tweak and do different things to it for sure. But do you have any other needs that you see, Jason, from the council, other than a thumbs up?
No, I think the park has kind of come together a lot.
Yeah, the bid should come back with some options, though, for us on things that we could pull out if we're having funding struggles. So, like the bathroom, instead of being 6 stalls, is 3 or 4, or, you know, the pavilion's a little smaller, you know, 2 different size pavilions, things like that. I think that's important for us to have some options if we get into a budget crunch on it, or we can't fund it all somehow. And, you know, we need to shave $500,000 or $750, how do we do that? And be able to have those bid options. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense, and I think it's an approach. Mark will work with
Yeah, I'll
Jason
review
on
with
that.
our team to see, you know, what pieces would make sense, so that we're not wasting time and resources, you know, dealing with supply issues is going to be our trouble, is trying to get this thing, you know, they'll need to go on this right away. And, you know, permitting is still, you know, I've already kind of started that, knowing that we need this, so.
Great. So without objection, we'll move forward. Are there any objections? Okay, thank you, Mr. Herzog. That's great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jason.
Next, we'll consider recommend the 2025 proposed budget summary. Ms. Sullivan Murray.
Hi, thank you. I told you, we talked last time at our budget workshop that we'd come back and just do a recap on where we're at. So the changes that the committee of the whole made during the workshop, we did add $5,000 in for additional weed cleanup as suggested, and an additional $12,500 for crossing signage that you were talking about, Matt. The other changes were really made to the tourism budget, where we reduced the sister city line item from $10,000 to $6,500, removed $30,000 for the wayfinding kiosks, and increased the parade funding from $2,000 to $15,000. Excuse me. We made the changes to the budget The bottom line is the same as it was before. It really didn't change, what the levy is or anything. So we're taking one more look at that quick. So last year's levy, 16,132, 660. This year, coming up, 16,239,077. The important part is the mill rate was $4.71 this last year. It'll be $4.34 this coming year. And that's pretty stable for most homes. We're looking at a decrease of about $16, so pretty stable. Now, to get our balanced budget, there's one final item that we have to do. In the original proposed budget that we gave you, there was $14,170 of surplus left at the end of it. Since, from the time you got the budget until we're finally finishing touches on it, the state has advised us, and I think I said this at the budget workshop, that the transportation aids and the utility shared revenue has increased this year. So that was an increase in $26,151 in transportation, $19,195 in utility shared. The couple of changes that were made reduced that by $5,000 for weed control, $12,500 for traffic. So the remaining surplus balance is just over $42,000. Recommendation for that really is to take that and put it back into contingency. There's two choices. I can reduce the amount of fund balance that we're using or that we're transferring, or we can add it back to contingency, which at 50,000 is the lowest that we've had it. So we can put that back in there, or I can just reduce the fund balance amount. Up to you.
If we don't use the contingency at the end of the year.
It goes back to
into
fund balance
Goes back
Anyway.
anyway, yeah.
But it does give you, we do not have a settled union agreement at this time. So
One,
having a little flexibility would be nice.
One item I brought to your attention, just want to remind you, I would really like to see us have a welcome to Oconomowoc sign on going in northbound Highway 67 off of I-94. At some point, we don't know how much that's going to cost. We don't know if the DOT will give us permission
In the median?
in the median.
Oh, yeah.
So this is an area where those contingency funds could be used, but that's something that is not in the 2025 budget because there's too many unknowns right now.
Correct.
And we also have some students at the high school that are working on that project as well. One of them happens to be sitting in the audience right now. So he and his team are working with Bob Duffy and the high school to try to figure out how we can put all these packages together. But because there's a financial component, I just wanted to remind council, no action needs to be made on that, but I'll turn it back to you, Laurie.
Yep, so I just really need to know how you'd like me to handle that $42,000, to add it back to contingency or take it away from fund balance transfer. And so a motion on that would probably be good.
You guys good with contingency? Anybody object?
I make a motion to put it back in the contingency.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, it
Okay.
passes, good.
So the next step is to take this to public hearing, which will be on November 5th for public hearing and adoption. The budget that you have in front of you is now balanced. It preserves all those services for the citizens. It increases our investment in public safety, both in police and fire, and stays within the current state levy limit laws.
So I'd like to entertain a motion to move this forward as described by Ms. Sullivan Murray.
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to close the Committee of the Whole meeting.
Motion to adjourn, or close committee of the whole, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Great. Give us about 2 minutes and we'll start the Common Council meeting. Order the City of Oconomowoc Common Council meeting for Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. Has appropriate meeting notification been made?
Yes, Your Honor, it has.
Chief Pfister, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Call roll, please.
Alderman Ellis,
Present.
Alderman Spiegelberg, Alderman Mulder.
Here.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Here.
Alderman Maroney,
Here.
Alderman Douglas,
Here.
Alderman Rozak,
Here.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
Here.
Welcome, everyone. We're going to move right into our public hearing section. We're going to start with item 4A, the text amendment to create standards for accessory dwelling units. The purpose is to hear public comment for the proposed text amendment that amends Chapter 17 of the Municipal Zoning Code to create standards for accessory dwelling units in the SR and TR zoning districts. The text amendments creates Section 17.215, accessory dwelling units, and amends Section 17.106, table of allowed uses to allow accessory dwelling units in the TR and SR zoning districts as permitted by right use. If approved, the ordinance would allow property owners in the TR and the SR zoning districts to have an attached or detached accessory dwelling units on their property acting as a secondary dwelling. The ordinance creates requirements for minimum and maximum building size, maximum building height, minimum building setbacks, parking, deed restrictions, material design, and an appeal process. Mr. Gallo, would you lead us off, please?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a public hearing right now for the zoning ordinance text amendment that would be allowed for allowing accessory dwelling units. This comes to you with a recommendation from the Plan Commission to approve this ordinance is on the agenda later this evening in this meeting. I'd like to just cover kind of what an accessory dwelling unit is, why should we create an ordinance, and then go into the ordinance standards for you. Here's a photo of an existing accessory dwelling unit at 421 Oakwood Avenue. It's been there over 20 years. So, accessory dwelling units come in all different shapes and sizes. They're detached, what we just saw a photo of. They can be attached to your house with a separate entryway. They can be upper levels, like an attic. They can be lower levels. They can be above a garage, and even take a garage and convert it into a dwelling space. We all remember the show Happy Days, the Fonzie flat above the garage. If it wasn't for ADUs, we would not have the Fonz. So this was an example of the ADU in the 1950s set Happy Days show.
You're jumping the shark.
Yeah. So they are existing in the city. I think I've shared some of this with you before. You know, here's one at 302 Summit Avenue. You can see all the garbage cans down here. This building's right on the corner, right by Brownberry there. You know, here's one on Riverview Lane, and it looks like it's two separate parcels, but when you look at it, this is that smaller dwelling. Here's the main house. Here's one, East Summit Avenue. I'm not certain that someone's living in there, but when you look at the house and you look at, here's the garage, and then this sure looks like a dwelling. So we have them in the city. They're all over, but really, why are we doing this? It's not only to create the ones we have as then conforming uses, but we have a affordable housing problem, I'll call it. It's not necessarily a crisis, but you know, and this has been talked about for years. This is an article dated 2021 that says it could be part of the solution for affordable housing. But it's more than just affordability for housing. It talks about, yeah, you could get rental income, but you can also provide a guest housing. You can age in place. What that means is, you know, if you have a big house, you can build a small one and you can move and you could be on your same property. You could do on-site care. Your care worker could stay in the thing, or multi-generational. I have 2 young kids that are at that age that they want to move out, so they could build an ADU in my backyard. There's a lot of other reasons too. I could go into that, but I think I'll just skip that for now. Here's a recent request at 129 South Worthington Street. This is right by the railroad tracks. This has actually been approved, and it was approved, but it would meet all the criteria of an ADU. When we looked at the site plan, here it is, here's the garage, and it's interesting how they want to put something on the second floor of the garage. They want to do, they called it an entertainment room, an exercise room, and a storage room, not necessarily bedrooms. But it's interesting that they put in a dishwasher, a stove, a refrigerator, et cetera. This could easily be converted to a bathroom with a shower, you know, into an accessory dwelling unit. Here's one that I asked if I could share with you, that is, if this is approved, they would like to do it. This lot on Concord Road is over an acre in size. And, you know, they would like to do something similar, so they're showing, this time they actually, these people are realistic. They say bedroom 1, bedroom 2, a kitchen, a dining, and a gathering space. And these are, this is just under the 1,000 square foot maximum size that we would be allowing. So the ordinance, we looked at a lot of other communities. This started with my intern. And we looked at other communities, you know, Madison and Appleton and other communities. We would like to have this as a permitted use in the TR and the SR zoning districts. That's the majority of our zoning. It's not a multifamily, it's more of our single family. Currently, we allow duplexes in there anyway. But this would be a permitted by right use with planning department review. I would issue some type of administrative approval, make sure that it conforms to everything. There's standards, minimum of 400 square feet, maximum of 1,000 square feet. That's typical of what other communities have. The utilities, I left it kind of open-ended, and that was the Plan Commission's direction as well, to sewer and water. Most likely it would come off the existing home, but if it's a corner lot and it would be quicker and easier, to shorter route to go off a different street or something, then, you know, we'd let the utilities determine that. Initially, we had the owner must live in at least one of the units. Through legal counsel and the Plan Commission agreed, we cannot regulate where an owner lives. We did take the impact fees away. We figured this was tried to promote this. These are smaller units, they don't have families. We could limit, it's not in the ordinance, but you could say a maximum of 2 bedrooms. Madison has that in theirs. But we decided no impact fees. There's no mention about garbage fees. That's something that if this progresses to the council, you may want to talk about. Are they responsible for a secondary waste fee? If you do a full-fledged duplex, garbage fee is required. The construction of these must be similar to those of the primary house, and we have stuff in there that says what it should match and be compatible and what that really means. Maximum building height is 25 feet. Then we have some setbacks for these. These are only allowed in the side and rear yard. They would not be allowed in the front yard, 7 feet side and 5 feet rear. 1 off-street parking stall would be required versus in the duplex, it's 2 stalls. And then a deed restriction, you cannot sell the unit independently, would have to be filed. Some communities allow them to be sold, I noticed, but we would say, no, it's a package deal. So, you know, I know you can't read all this, but in the ordinance itself, I just wanted to point out, we have definitions, we have the standards, everything in that's bold and strike through was a Plan Commission change. I want to thank Commissioner Frederick, who's here this evening. He did a lot of heavy lifting with me on this. We have the setbacks, we have all those standards that I discussed. We have the maximum height. It was initially 22 feet. We went to 25 feet. We have the parking requirement, the deed restriction. And then impact fees, initially I had all non-utility impact fees shall be paid, but we decided no impact fees shall be required, and then an appeal process. And then section 3 is amending the chart of uses that it would be listed as a permitted by right use. So the Plan Commission did recommend this to the council with a recommendation based on the strike-through and bold version. And I just want to mention, this has been in the city's strategic plan for several years. It's been something I've been looking at. If you travel out west, like the Seattle area, you see these all over the place. They're coming more and more popular. There's just some good things, reasons why. I just want to note a couple of things. This Cliff Notes version. ADUs can generate rental income. The expense that someone is only for the new structure only. The landowner already owns the land there. It can be created for family members or friends to reside for free or at a discounted rate. It's a viable alternative to costly assisted living facilities. It's a way to include smaller, relatively affordable homes in established neighborhoods without adding to an area sprawl. It's an incremental way to add homes to a community than multi-story apartment buildings. The ADUs are managed by homeowners who live on the premise, unlike landlords that are less likely to tolerate, or such landlords are less likely to tolerate a destructive tenant. These require fewer resources to build and maintain. They use significantly less energy for heating. They offer young people entry-level housing. And finally, they provide empty nesters and others with the option of moving into a smaller space when renting out the larger house. So with that, that's my presentation. I'll open up the public hearing.
Thank you. So I'd like to open up this public hearing. I have one blue card on public hearing from Dan Guido. Dan, if you'd like to come up to the podium, if you'd please state your name, your mailing address, and share with us your comments for the council. If you have some specific questions, those will be answered and addressed when this item comes up later this evening under new business for the Plan Commission. Dan.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Dan Gitto, 682 South Concord Road. My wife and I recently moved into that house about 4 months ago. Completely redid kind of the inside of the house. The inside and outside needed some love. So we did finish the inside. Outside is now kind of the next step. I would say we have a structure. I wouldn't call it a garage there. So that's been something on our plan to build a garage to kind of complete the renovation part of the house and the property. So that's kind of been on our plan. We have planned on probably waiting a few years to save to actually build that garage. But in the meantime, I have a sister who is actually a single mom who is trying to get back to the area. She does not live in the area right now. So in this case, this ordinance would help just because it is fairly difficult for her to find somewhere that would be affordable to move into the area for what she needs. And so this is something that we've looked at as it could help us with kind of what we were hoping to do is build an actual garage on the property, help us afford that, but also help her afford a reasonable cost for housing to move back to the area. So that's kind of my personal reason to speak about the ordinance. So thanks.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for the detailed plans that Jason showed and your transparency of what you're trying to accomplish. Do we have any other public comments on this open public hearing with regard to accessory dwelling units? Without hearing any more, we're going to close the public hearing on accessory dwelling units and open the public hearing to create standards for semi-trailers and shipping containers. The purpose is to hear public comment for proposed text amendments that amends Chapter 17 of the Municipal Code to create standards for accessory uses and structures in residential zoning districts. The text amendment creates 17.1102I pertaining to accessory uses and structures. If approved, the ordinance would prohibit any person to erect, construct, maintain, or use any semi-trailer or shipping container in residential zoning districts in the city. This ordinance does not apply to temporary portable storage structures regulated in 17.112. Mr. Gallo.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a zoning ordinance that regulates the standards for detached accessory buildings in all the residential zones. We regulate overall height, setbacks, where it can be located in the rear yard, everything that you can think of except what they look like. We don't get into what storage containers look like, about materials must match the house, and you know, it must be constructed of brick or vinyl. So there's been this new trend of buying shipping containers. We have several in the city, and they're coming into neighborhoods. And for subdivisions that don't have HOAs and protective covenants and restrictions, this is what we're getting, and my hands are really tied. I can't say no to this. So someone ordered one, and we got some complaints registered, and I'm letting you guys as the policymakers decide, is this an acceptable practice? This one doesn't look too bad, but it doesn't match the house style, the materials. There's no landscaping around it. There's no base. They're just using it for storage. Now, we do have an ordinance that talks about storage containers for temporary, like these pods that you get for moving, and those are in the front of the house on the paved surface, and there's only there for extended period of time. But people are using this, I feel, as like a loophole, and they're asking, you know, me if they can have this as a permanent fixture, and there's nothing that I can say no to it. So obviously when this went in, I actually got two or maybe potentially three. I got 3 complaints on this one alone. I don't know if this is what we want to do. So I drafted an ordinance, and it's up to you. It basically, in residential zoning districts, no person shall erect, construct, maintain, or use any semi-trailer or shipping container operative or inoperable in the city. This section does not apply to the portable storage structures. Those are those pods for moving purposes in 17.112. So that's the public hearing.
So I'd like to open the public hearing. Does anyone in the audience want to make public comment at this time? I do not have any blue cards for anyone that would like to make comment. Seeing that there's no comment, we're going to close the public hearing on the semi-trailer and shipping container item. And we'll move on to, I'd entertain a motion for the approval of minutes for October 1st, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And moves on. Now we move on to comments and suggestions from citizens. I do have one blue card. Mr. Nick Bragoza, or Bragoz, if you'd please state your name and address address the council.
Sure. Nick Brengos. I'm at 230 Hillside Drive. My wife and I have lived in Oconomowoc since 2015. We have 3 children, ages 2, 5, and 7. I first off want to thank anyone who's had part of making Oconomowoc such an awesome community to live in. Like, we absolutely love it. The energy and the young families that we know, I think it's outstanding. So I want to start there. One of the things I saw on one of the agendas was about the reconstruction of Silver Lake Street. We're right across the street from St. Jerome Church in that neighborhood over there. And I know part of the strategic plan talks about bike accessibility and how we can improve that. Again, I have no idea where anything stands on this, but I do want to make a push for getting us to the Lake Country Trail from where we're at. Is we basically have to go backwards to go forward to get into the city. So something I would love to see would be looking at making biking into downtown more accessible. I know over the years there's been talk about congestion and parking issues and all that type of stuff. I think this can all work hand in hand with people who are close enough to downtown being able to safely bike in and therefore keeping cars out of downtown. Again, I have no idea about the actual width of Silver Lake Street and the, feasibility of that. I know that there's parking on both sides of the street right now, so if that's something, maybe limit parking to one side, do some sort of a bike lane, maybe that's two directional on one side, but I did see plans for, I know there's been talks about East Wisconsin Avenue and the redevelopment of that. And I think the renderings I saw, and again, I have no idea how binding any of this is, but basically, I think it was like, you had the bike lane and then past that up against the curb was parking. I would really implore the city to think about protected bike lanes if possible. Again, I know that's a financial difficulty possibly, but making it so that we don't have people driving through bike lanes to get to a parking space would be something that should really be thought about. And again, I know for us, I think about all the other people, the people up by Shore Haven, all the people that go around Fowler. If we have ways to get people from their houses into the city without bringing cars in, I think that benefits everybody. So, again, I don't know where any of that's at, but I did want to voice my support for that.
Well, and thank you for coming to the council and being so proactive.
Absolutely.
There are potential committee and board positions available this coming spring, so if you want to get more engaged in things within the city,
I don't
please
think
let us
that's
know.
what he came here for.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Get an application on the way out,
Do we have any other comments or comments from people in the audience? Seeing no further comments, we'll move on to our consent agenda items A, B, and C. I'd like to entertain a motion.
Rozak, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moves forward. Thank you. On to committee reports, we're going to start with finance. Consider act on the budget amendments for third quarter grants and donations received and transfer of fire reserves 7/1/24 to 9/30/24. Ms. Sullivan Murray.
Thank you. Third quarter grants and donations to the city. So for the third quarter, we did have grants and donations in the amount of $289,466, with a sizable donation coming from the Rotary Foundation for the Phase 1 of the splash pad, and another $23,000 for the pickleball maintenance. Total sponsorship is in here, canine donations, and grants from the community, or the Oconomowoc Area Foundation for Oz Plaza. There's one budget amendment in here as well, and that one is just to create a special fund to move the fire reserve from the referendum, the remaining dollars, into a special fund that we will use over the next 10 years for fire capital. But it gives it a place to be where you can see what that balance is all the time, and it's not intermingled with other funds. And that's all I have today.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Sullivan Murray? Like to entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions or comments? Call roll, please.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Maroney.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
Aye.
Under the utilities, consider act on the third amendment to lease agreement between the city and the of Oconomowoc and Spectrum Mid-America LLC.
Yeah, could I did.
Hey, Kevin.
Hi. So, this memorandum, as it states, a little background, the city of Oconomowoc and Spectrum Mid-America entered into a lease in 1999 for the lease of some cable equipment and a building located at 163B Sheldon Road on December 7th, 1999. The first amendment to the lease dated December 1st, 2009 extended the lease terms until December 1st, 2019 with an option to renew letter dated June 3rd, 2014, which was corrected on June 9th, 2014. The second amendment to lease agreement dated June 17th, 2019 and rent letter agreement dated March 12th, 2023 extended the terms of the lease through and including November 30th, 2024, which brings us to the necessity of the third amendment. The lease basically expires November 30th, 2024. So I got together with the Spectrum company and had them draft up a third amendment to the lease agreement between the city. Went back and forth and gave ourselves, in the past history, we've been given like 3% increases on the rent. This is for a 10 by 20 building. So it's a small manufactured building that has the cable TV equipment on our site, which is the East Standpipe. It's our water utility site. I asked for a raise up to 8,000, which is about like an 8% raise, and continuing for the next 10 years at 3%. So it's just an update for another 10 years, or possibility of 10 years for a lease agreement for the existing structures that have been out there for 25 years.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council? I'd like to entertain a motion.
So moved, Rozak.
Second.
Any further questions or comments? Call roll, please.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Maroney.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
Aye.
On to Plan Commission items, we have 4 items this evening. First up is consider act on the first addendum to the condominium plat for the reserve of Old Highlander condominium located at Sterling Drive and North Old Highlander Drive. Mr. Gallo.
Thank you. We did receive a condominium plat. Condominium plats in this community are reviewed the same as a subdivision plat. It has a preliminary and then a final. A lot of times condominium plats come back in, the finals come back in phases. It's expandable plats. This one is located in the Old Highlander area. It's up behind the ski hill in the Olympia Hills area. So the area is kind of highlighted here where this condominium plat is. So this is what the preliminary plat looked like, the condominium plat. These are all duplex condominiums. The city approved this in September of 2023. It had a number of units there. So this is the preliminary. That did not give them the right to build it. They come back with final plats. This was the, what you're reviewing tonight is the first addendum of it. The original one showed the 3 units, buildings with 6 units in the black circle, and that was the original final plat. And then now it's the first addendum, and those are shown in the red circles. So we're talking a total of 6 units in 3. They come back with only 6 units because of various reasons. One is the bank's financing. They don't want to have too many out there at one time for financing. They also, the plan commissioners asked the applicants, why are they scattered and not in a row like the first one was? And I guess the answer that they had is, well, when someone comes back and says, we want to live in this unit or this unit, then we make those a priority. So they don't necessarily have to come back, right next to each other. But this plat, the first addendum of Old Highlander, shows these, the ones in red are what we are approving this evening. So the Plan Commission did review this. They recommended approval to the Common Council.
Questions or comments for Mr. Gallo? Alderman Rozak.
Just briefly, just so anyone that's watching, nothing new is being approved. As Jason pointed out in his memorandum to the City Council, the zoning matches the approved general development plan. So this is, it's just us approving these things as they come in front of us.
That's correct.
I only say that because I've had some questions about it. So I want anyone that's watching to understand that.
Well, and there are a lot of people adjacent to this development.
Correct.
And I think that's great. I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
So moved, Altman Cloth.
Second.
Any further questions or comments? Call roll, please.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Maroney.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
Aye.
On to our next item, consider act on a certified survey map for Pabst Farms to divide 1 lot into 2 lots and 2 outlots located in the northeast corner of Summon Avenue and I-94. Mr. Gallo.
Thank you. We did receive a certified survey map. That's an instrument to divide lots. You can go up to 4 lots, so they have 2 buildable lots and 2 outlots being proposed to get to that magic number of 4. This is on the northeast corner of I-94 and Highway 67 up here, Summit Avenue. This is the town center area. To get you familiar, this is the Fleet Farm retail store right here. So this is what the certified survey map looks like. I zoomed in a little bit and I added some color to kind of show you what's happening. Lot 1 is going to be a 1.1 or a 1.2 acre site, and that's for a future commercial property project. And then the bluish area that's left over, that's going to be Lot 2 on this. That is for the future sale for commercial use. It's 16 acres. And then there's also 2 outlots. Outlot 1 is this large 9-acre stormwater facility. And then there's a second outlot, which is going to be this private drive area for the connection of this Penny Lane that comes down. These are all a private road system. There's no public streets in here to get to the Fleet Farm that maintains the access through there. So that's not being sold. That'll be retained by Pabst Farms. So we did have a general development plan that we approved in March 5th of this year that had several alternatives and options for this particular area. So I took one that was pretty similar of what we approved, and this would be Lot 1 right here, and then the remaining area, it would be Lot 2, the 16-acre piece, so this is the 1.1. So this is very consistent with what we prior looked at for their master plan. They did have several other options that it's not consistent with, but now this is what's kind of coming together. So this area is still out there left over, and we're not sure how the larger piece will be subdivided. But again, you can only get 4 lots on a CSM unless you go to a subdivision plat, which is a whole different animal. So this is the 2 outlots and the 2 regular lots for sale. So they have an interested party in this, possibly an interested party in this. So that's what they're asking you to approve. The Plan Commission did review this, and they did recommend approval of the CSM for the Pabst Farms lands, northeast corner of Summit Avenue and I-94.
Questions or comments for Mr. Gallo?
Jason, the outlot, if you go back to the map, outlot 1, what does that pertain?
That's a stormwater ponds, so there's a variety of ponds in here, 4 bays and dry areas and wet areas for stormwater. So like Fleet Farm doesn't take up this whole box here, but their parking lot and their building rooftop does, and all of it, drains down in here. Some of this will drain into here. So there's it's for stormwater holding purposes. You can kind of see here's a wet area, and then there's some dry areas, and then another wet area down here. So the Fleet Farm store and all that, it discharges into here.
As part of the Pabst sewer district. Stormwater district, yeah, not sewer district. Sewers, stormwater. Questions or comments for Mr. Gallo? Like to entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions or comments? Call roll, please.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Alderman Maroney.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Altman-Cloth.
Aye.
Our next 2 items are from the 2 public hearings. First up is consider act on ordinance 24-01071 to create section 17.215 accessory dwelling units within chapter 17.2 of the performance standards and amend section 17.106 table of allowed uses of the City of Oconomowoc Municipal Zoning Code. Council, this is the first reading. Mr. Gallo.
Thank you. I gave an overview during the public hearing. I won't repeat any of those comments. We did have one speaker who is interested in doing this. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Council, do we have any questions at this time? Alderman Rozak?
Sure. Jason, you mentioned that this was mentioned in our strategic plan. Was it actually ADUs mentioned or just affordable housing mentioned?
No, ADUs was actually mentioned in the strategic plan.
Is it
We
also-
talked about looking at all sorts of housing options, including accessory dwelling units.
Yeah, so I'll start out my comments by saying I'm not necessarily opposed to these, but it seems like we're creating an ordinance kind of solution searching for a problem. And I guess I say that because one of the things you said in the memo is you've reached out to these other cities that have done this, and they've said almost none, in some instances, no permits have been pulled, or very few. So kind of in my head, I'm like, okay, what's the point then if we're doing that? One of the other things we said is this is to help with affordable housing, but it's not really. So if you end up building a really nice garage, brand new garage on your property with a 1,000-foot, mother-in-law suite above it, you're actually just increasing the overall value of your property at the end of the day. Someone may live in there for a temporary period of time for cheaper than maybe they could somewhere else, but you're actually going to just increase property values overall. So perhaps an older house that could be sold to a younger family now gets redeveloped into essentially a house and an apartment, and someone buys it and rents it out, both of them, to someone, which we don't prevent. So those are a couple of my concerns. Again, I'm not completely opposed to the concept. I'm a big believer in people's, property rights. I'm a little concerned. I do think we have to address the garbage fees. If it's a separate living unit and people are living in there with a kitchen and bathrooms and bedrooms, they ought to be paying another garbage fee. And I'm a little concerned that we're completely exempting them from all new impact fees. So all the current units that are out there that we're going to make legally conforming with the change of the ordinance, they've not paid impact fees. They're exempt from this. But anyone that builds a brand new place now, and let's say they spend 150 grand on a place, they're bringing in people into the city that are one way or another going to use our parks, our spaces, our transportation, our fire, our police. Whether it's a grandmother or, like you said, young people that need like an entry-level place and maybe they're going to move on to a parcel with their mom and dad because they can't afford to build a whole house right now. Either way, we're bringing in people that are using those services that we've all paid for, in some instances, decades or our entire life. So I think we should calculate what those fees are and apply those fees, and perhaps in a slightly different manner. I don't know if we can do that for an accessory building or if they need to be charged the entire impact fees. But to say that these units aren't going to have an impact on the city services is, I don't think, accurate, and I think they should pay for that.
Alderman Altman-Cloth?
So just a little background on some of the conversations, and we talked about this over, is it 2 or 3 plan commission meetings?
3 meetings.
Like 3 meetings, and I mean, we went into we really went into the weeds on some of these conversations. So kind of one of your first points, Alderman Rozak, was about like this isn't affordable housing. And I guess one way that I see this really being utilized in our community is, you are, financially stable, your parents, are in a very fixed income. You kind of take the burden of building one of these so that they can live there, so it's kind of affordable housing for them. Or it's something that you do to maybe kind of give a kid, a start. Or if you have like a special needs adult child that needs to kind of live close but can kind of live out of the house. So it's not necessarily like affordable housing in the sense of like you're going to open this up to like, a renter or something like that. It's more affordable housing for like people close to you. And then the conversation that we had in regards to the impact fees that Jason had proposed were about $4,500. So you take, like the gentleman in the audience here who is going to put this addition on his garage or above, or I don't remember exactly well, it's right in front of me. There's your plan. You're trying to do this on a dime to help somebody. So $4,500 when you're already on a pretty tight budget was a lot. Now, you kind of ruined my argument here because it's for your sister-in-law and your nieces and nephews, but I think that you would be kind of the outlier on this, that we're going to see this utilized more again for special needs adults, for children, for aging parents. And those are not people that are going to put a huge burden on our Parks Department. They're probably not gonna put a huge burden on our police. Now, our fire, that conversation we could definitely have. But again, this is just something to make it affordable. And if you put that extra couple $1,000s on an already really tight budget, it is a lot, so.
Alderman Ellis?
My question was answered.
Okay. Alderman Shellpepper?
Jason, how many people do we envision, utilizing the ADU? I mean, what do you foresee if this gets approved, like in the next year? How many
I reached out to some other communities, and I remember Appleton, Wisconsin's answer was they've had this on the books for several years, like 3 or 4 years, and they've had 1 permit.
Yeah, well,
I don't think this is a thing, but it could be. I think I showed you examples, there's more in the city than I showed you, I didn't want to bore you, of existing ADUs in the city right now. So I think there is some popularity, and I think it's just not a culture of Wisconsin right now to be building garages in your backyard with a separate structure. But I think it could catch on. You've asked me the question, how many food trucks are we gonna get? And someone else asked me, how many chickens are we gonna get? We do get them over time.
we
It
haven't
takes
gotten
a
lot of
while.
chickens, right?
Don't
I mean,
mention
we'll not go there.
chickens.
So I don't know the answer to that, but I think if people start seeing this as a viable option, we may get, I don't think the floodgates are gonna open and we're gonna get these. I think a lot of subdivisions have protective covenants and restrictions that prohibit this. A lot of the older housing units are very tight, they're very small lots, and they won't be able to fit something physically on the lot. So this is really tailored for only a certain number of lots in the city.
Well, and I mean, I think Alderman Rozak, you kind of contradicted yourself a little bit at some points, because you said at one level, you don't think a lot of people are going to use it, but then on the other, you're like, well, it's going to be taxing on the community and, the impact fees. And I don't necessarily disagree with that, but maybe it is just another opportunity, like Alderman Altman Cloth, said that, we're giving an opportunity to some elderly parents, a sibling in need. So it's hard for me to see how this becomes a huge thing, and if it does, maybe we revisit it at that point in terms of impact fees. But I think I generally agree, if we want to make it something that is affordable, that some families can take advantage of, levying all those additional impact fees is probably, it contradicts that. So, but I definitely think the garbage fee, you gotta pay for the garbage, so I'm on board with that. And I also think perhaps, the 2-bedroom maximum would probably make sense as well, so that it doesn't become this, several bedrooms inside the ADU.
Alderman Douglas?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, just thinking of that, I just thought about something, and I don't remember seeing it.
Can you speak into the microphone?
Do we give separate addresses for the ADUs?
No.
Yeah, there would be a separate address, because this would be it could potentially be a different family living there if they need mail, so it would be a separate address.
Alderman Rozak?
Yeah, just to address a couple of comments. I don't know that I really contradicted myself. I was pointing out from his memo that we're trying to correct a problem, but then we're also saying in the memo that these other communities have barely pulled any permits. So I don't know that this actually fixes anything. It doesn't really fix our affordable housing crisis.
Yeah.
So that was my general point there. If they become a thing and we start issuing 10, 20 of these a year and folks are moving in, then it becomes more of a burden on our parks, on these things that we're doing in the community, which is why I still think the impact fee is, I'd like to know what the total impact fees would be. You said somebody said 4,500. But the reality is, let's say 20 of these get made, let's say 10 of them, let's say 100, it doesn't matter what the number is. If they're not paying for some of those, and these are a lot of times going to be brand new, because the current ones that are here, are already built, are already here. So someone's going to be building, like what we see in this plan, a really nice 3-car garage with a 1,000-square-foot brand new house on top. That's not going to be cheap to build, and it's going to bring in someone. I also want to just address a few of the assumptions about this is just about helping someone with special needs or an older couple. People will also use these to rent them. People will build them And when their elderly mom or dad pass away, they're not gonna just, shutter this, they're gonna rent it out to someone, and they're gonna likely try to make some money on it. They also may very well rent it to their elderly family member or their sister or whoever for some nominal fee so that they can at least recover electric or some of the build out. So I don't think it's purely altruistic that people are just gonna build these for purely altruistic reasons. And so then that's when we actually take that concept and bring it back down to like a common sense level. If these are not just being built for altruistic reasons on their own, then they ought to pay the same impact fees that I would have to pay if I built a brand new house. So if I built a 1,200 square foot house, a modest house somewhere, I would have to pay the impact fees. If I built on a smaller lot, there's going to be smaller lots in the Arrowwood subdivision. Some of those are only 1,300 square feet houses. They're paying the full impact fees. So, I mean, that's my overall point. Again, I'm not really opposed to them. I'm just bringing up, I think, a few of the things that we should really seriously consider. If you're building what we're looking at front of us, that's not like a $50,000, dollar garage. That's gonna be $150,000. It's gonna be nice, it's gonna be brand new, and it's gonna be something that when she's done living there, they're gonna rent it out to someone else, or to a friend or another couple, and they ought to pay the impact fees, because they're gonna use the parks, they're gonna use the streets, they're gonna use fire protection, they're gonna use police department, just like any of us would.
I
So-
think the thing you have to think about too is there are going to be a lot of variables. They're not all going to build a brand new garage and put something in there. They're going to have existing structures that they may put 50 or 60,000 in to be able to have. So I think there are a lot of variables. So will some people do it for altruistic reasons? Yeah, absolutely so. Will others use it and maybe be able to rent it? I think there's a lot of variation in here. I think what we're trying to do here is give definition to help Jason, the planning department, as these have come to light in the city and people have made those requests. And where I see it happening probably more so is with the young adults that are coming back, that are trying to get their feet on the ground, that can't afford to rent something in some of our expensive apartments. They're gonna live with their folks or with some friends for a year or two so they can build up a bankroll and maybe then buy something. So I think that they're a good thing to have. I also think they have to be monitored. And I think that we may, as Alderman Shellpepper said, maybe have to readdress these. And every community is different. I like the ideas of 2 bedrooms. I think that makes a lot of sense. But that's really up to council and what you guys want to do. I think it's a positive thing to move forward. It's also a first reading, and it may be something where you can spend a little time over the next couple of weeks. This probably is not a good one to waive the first reading. That's just my recommendation to council. As you've looked at it, the Plan Commission has looked at it for a long period of time, as well as Jason and his team, and I think they brought something to you that is very workable and it has done a wonderful job. And I want to echo Jason's comment. Dean, thank you so much, because he's put so much effort into this and trying to put something together, for the community. So with that being said, do we have any further comments? Alderman Ellis.
I'd like to make a motion to approve, not waiving the second reading.
Is there anything you want to add to it that's been discussed?
I do. I want to add in the garage fee, excuse me, the garbage fee.
Garbage fee, okay.
Can't read my own handwriting here. I'd like to add that in.
Okay. I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Jason? 2 bedroom, correct. Is that something you want to include in your, or not? It's up to you, Alderman Ellis.
I do not.
You do not, okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll
With-
second it.
Second. Any further questions or comments? Call roll, please.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Excuse me. Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Maroney.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas. I'm sorry, I missed Alderman Shellpepper. I apologize, Chaz, I
No, you're
apologize.
good.
Alderman Shellpepper?
No.
Okay. I'm now on Alderman Douglas.
No.
Alderman Rozak.
Nay.
Alderman Altman Clove.
Nay.
So it does fail.
It does fail. Does anybody want to make a different motion?
I'll make the same motion, but add the 2-bedroom maximum.
I'll second that.
Any further questions or comments?
Okay, can I make a comment on, am I allowed to comment on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Two-bedroom maximum is there, but is there a square footage? Is it just 1,000?
It's at 1,000 as
No
a
more
square
than
foot.
1,000?
Correct. Correct, which isn't very much.
It's hard to see it, but it's in there.
Here's my first 3 apartments put together.
Right where the red dot is.
My thought, can I just explain, I mean, is that does limit some of the number, I think, that you can put in there. And if we're worried about it overburdening or becoming too many people, I think that provides some limits to it.
And not to comment on that, I think with some of the changes we've requested, some of the information I requested, I'm voting no against this tonight, because there is no rush on this at all. There is no reason we should have to vote on this the first time we see it as council. I know some people have seen it on planning commission. We're talking about the 2 bedrooms. I've asked about the impact fees. I asked about other options for impact fees. There's gonna be more change to this. Why vote on it tonight? Why not see all the final? Yeah, I understand we're not, I understand we're not waiving it, but why not see just a final version and get it cleaned up? But that's why I'm voting no against it, and I am concerned about the impact fees.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shell
Aye.
Alderman Maroney.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Nay.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
Aye.
We'll move on, and if you have some further questions or you want clarification, please email Jason Gallo so that we can try to get that information before the second reading. On to our next item. This would be our second public hearing. Consider act on ordinance 24-01072 to amend 17-1102 of the City of Oconomowoc Municipal Zoning Code to add section standards for semi-trailers and shipping containers. Council, this is again a first reading. Mr. Gallo.
Yes, under the standards for semi-trailers and shipping containers, we would say they're prohibited in residential districts. So it's pretty straightforward. We talked about creating architectural design guidelines for detached accessory buildings, and that was a slippery slope. So then after about an hour of discussion with the Plan Commission, we finally just said, make a motion to just prohibit them in residential districts. So that's what's brought forth. That's the recommendation from the Plan Commission, is just no person will be allowed to have these on a permanent basis. This does not impact those moving pods and other things that people have delivered temporarily to their home.
Questions or comments from council? Alderman Shell.
How many people do we think this is impacting? I mean, how many containers do we have?
The existing ones of record would not be touched. Those
Okay.
would be allowed to remain.
This
It'd
one
be-
right here would be
This
allowed.
one here would be, yes.
That doesn't. yeah,
Alderman,
quite get that.
Alderman Altman Cloth?
I think Mulder was next.
Okay, I'm sorry. Alderman Mulder?
Was
I was just
Shellpepper
curious
done?
if you'd researched other communities and if they had the similar issues and
I had a summer intern this summer, and she did extensive research, but it was very challenging. She found a lot of communities allow storage containers temporarily, like we do. Some communities have architectural standards, but again, that gets pretty challenging because you can buy kits nowadays and all this other stuff. We didn't find anything that prohibited them outright, but it talked about how they must match the house. That was about the closest thing that we could find.
Alderman Altman Cloth?
So again, this is another one of those things that we talked about probably, 2-3 meetings on Plan Commission. My initial comments on it were, as much as I don't want my neighbor to have one of these, I don't want to tell another homeowner what they can and cannot do in their backyard. And if you don't want to see something like this, then live in a neighborhood that has an HOA, because then you'll have those protections. So if you choose to live in a neighborhood without an HOA, you're going to choose to open yourself up to this. And this one is actually in my neighborhood, and it's ugly. But I know we kind of kept going around and around on Plan Commission about like, should it be the same color of the house? And then one of the things that I brought up is, well, what if you have one that's a much smaller scale and you're building it as like a playhouse for your little girl and your house is brown? She's not gonna want her little dollhouse, playhouse in the backyard brown. She's gonna want it purple or pink, or, so, then do you do landscaping? But then what kind of landscaping? And, I mean, it was, some of those conversations on Plan Commission, it felt like we were beating a dead horse, that we were just not getting anywhere. And I think then we just kind of gave up and just said, forget it, we're just not gonna approve it, or prohibit them. So, again, this would be one of those things I would not want to see us waive the first or the second reading. I'd like to see you guys kind of sit and think on this, because this is one of those conversations that I went home after the first one and I rethought some of the things that I thought in that meeting, and it's not an easy one.
Alderman Mulder.
I guess just adding to that, I do, I'm in an HOA, so I guess I do have those protections. But the big neighborhood where I think your in-laws maybe live, wouldn't.
There's no HOA there.
Right. And so I think there's an expectation, at least I have an expectation, if I live in a city, there's not going to be a storage container in the next door to me. So, I mean, even though you don't have HOA, when you do move into a city, you don't expect to see an industrial storage container, 10 feet away from your property line or 5 feet away from your property line. So I'm property rights generally, but this does feel like it's outside of what you should be able to expect your neighbors to be able to do in a community that's 100 years old. My thought.
Alderman Rozak.
Yeah, I echo that. One of the comments you said, Jennifer, was we don't want to tell people what they can do on their property, but we literally just did with the previous ordinance. We told them you can build the accessory dwelling units, but you can only have 2 bedrooms and it can't be more than 1,000 feet. And you have to pay a garbage fee, and you may have to pay more impact fees if I have my way in 2 weeks. So, we absolutely tell people what to do on their, that is what government does in a sense. We're not telling them what they do on personal levels, but for instance, you can't store rusted cars that are abandoned in your lots. We've cite people and tell them to remove them. If your weeds get over 2 inches tall in your front yard, we can order you to mow your yard and clean up the weeds. Whatever it is, I don't know what it is, 8 inches, 3 inches, whatever the heck it is. He knows the code. We have a noxious weed ordinance. So we have a variety of ordinances, including things like side yard setbacks. So you can put accessory buildings sometimes, but you can't do it if it's too close to the side yard setback. So we're absolutely telling people to do that all the time. I agree completely with Matt. I think there's an expectation that we have some civility amongst neighbors, and that's what government at our level is supposed to do. I'm also protected, like Matt is, by an HOA, so the accessory dwelling unit things, the chicken ordinance, this thing, none of that's gonna affect me, because we don't allow it based on our covenants and deed restrictions. But to the earlier point about people not being able to afford housing, sometimes you have to go in an older subdivision to afford a property, and you shouldn't have to waive all of your rights to your property and have to look at that out of your back window every morning. So
Make that a chicken coop.
I voted against the chicken coops too, so.
Other comments? Alderman Shell Pepper.
What's the thought process then behind grandfathering in the existing storage?
Well, he pulled a
containers?
permit and the city approved the permit, so he has a permit on record. We can't take that away from him.
So you're saying we don't have an option, that it has to stay then?
Correct.
And that this is just a
It's a
prospective?
legal non-conforming structure.
Right. Well, it's conforming right now. If this ordinance,
Once we adopt this.
then it would become
non-conforming structure.
legal non-conforming.
Structure,
If we adopt this.
if it's adopted.
Okay.
And if he removes it, then, then it would be out, then he could not put it back in.
This one looks really nice. They do rust.
Yeah, they rust big time.
So if I lived in a nice neighborhood and that was there, I don't think I would like it.
Good thing you don't.
Yeah. I don't live next to anybody.
Some of your outbuildings are in rough shape.
Yeah, they've been repaired.
Well, and this particular one, I mean, it is pretty much on the lot, I mean, not on the lot line, but it's it's pretty close to the neighboring house.
Well, it's gotta be in this, it's gotta be outside the setback, though.
We have a 3-foot side yard setback
which isn't
for
that much.
accessory buildings, so it's pretty close, yeah.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Gallo? And again, council, this is the first reading. I'd like to entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any further questions or comments?
I'm not waiving the second.
Call roll, please.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Maroney.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
Aye. I can state
On
what
to
I
new
think and still
business.
agree.
Consider act on the committee of the whole closed session discussion regarding Town of Oconomowoc cost-sharing proposal for the City Beach Boat Launch Project. I'd like to entertain a motion.
So moved?
Actually, Rozak hasn't
No,
prepared
it's,
some language.
no, Kevin's,
Oh, I thought
Yeah.
you said motions.
No.
I did.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to reject the town's cost-sharing proposal or ultimatum.
Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Any further, before further questions or comments, I'm going to read a statement from council and the mayor's office. This is an update on the boat launch funding commitment. Over the past 12 months, the city of Oconomowoc, the town of Oconomowoc, the village of Lac La Belle, and the La Belle Lake District have collaborated to design and fund a new community boat launch. The project reflects the contributions of our community, with the town covering 41% of the shoreline properties, the city 36%, the village 23%. The estimated total cost of the project is $2.8 million. On May 16, 2024, the town of Oconomowoc formally notified the city via email of their approval to contribute $275,000 towards the boat launch, which represents approximately 9.8% of the total project's total cost. Following this, the City of Oconomowoc Common Council approved the bid to proceed with the project on May 21st, 2024. However, during a meeting on September 25th of 2024, the city was informed that the town had convened in closed session and amended their original commitment. Notably, there have been no prior indication of contingencies for funding from the town. The town has now stated that to receive funding for the community boat launch, the city must transfer a total of 500 sewer recs to the town. Those are connections for sewers to residential properties. The town has made it clear that this new requirement is non-negotiable. Consequently, this poses a significant challenge to the project's funding. The city expects the town to honor their written and their verbal commitments to fund the boat launch renovations currently in progress, supporting both residents of our shared communities. We remain open to good faith discussions regarding other issues or concerns the town may wish to address. Our door is always open. Any further comments from council? Seeing no further comment, council, call roll, please.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Yes.
Alderman Maroney.
Aye.
Alderman Douglas.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
Aye.
On to staff reports. Kevin Kari has some updates for us. Kevin?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, Council. As a small municipal utility with 8 line mechanics that work for it, you kind of look at what just happened down in Florida, where Hurricane Milton came rolling through on October 9th and 10th, and say if something like that happened, what do you do? Well, I just want to go through a little story here, or a little timeline to explain how municipal utilities and mutual aid works. Mutual aid is electric utilities helping each other in times of need. Utilities want to give and get help for power restoration after a disaster is, part of a network of community-owned electric companies. When a major disaster hits a utility's territory and the utility knows that its own crews and equipment won't be enough to restore the electric power quickly, it calls for mutual aid. Other utilities in the network respond with what they can offer. On Monday, October 7th at 2 p.m., the Florida Municipal Electric Association, FMEA, requested line workers and equipment from Wisconsin to assist the community of Kissimmee, Florida, where Wisconsin crews had provided mutual aid before. The Municipal Electric Utilities of Wisconsin, MEUW, which is a member, there's 81 members like ourselves and co-ops in Wisconsin, called on its member utilities to offer help with power restoration due to Hurricane Milton. They said that deployment was going to be set for Wednesday, October 9th, and Oconomowoc responded by offering 2 journeyman line mechanics and a 60-foot bucket truck. Todd Tremaine and Kirk Peschel, both journeyman line mechanics, were offered to go. So on Tuesday, October 8th at 1:30 p.m., Wisconsin crews through the MEUW decided to meet at a meeting place in South Beloit, Illinois at 7 a.m. for initial staging. From there, crews were to head to Smyrna, Tennessee and see how the hurricane played out. A total of 47 workers from 22 different Wisconsin municipals responded with their equipment. So even though it's just 2, you bring us all together, the whole state of Wisconsin and the municipal utilities offered 47 line mechanics, including 2 of our own. On Wednesday at 7:15, the crews assembled in South Beloit and took off to Smyrna, Tennessee in a convoy. Thursday, October 10th, 6 a.m., Wisconsin crews spent the night in Smyrna, Tennessee, and to find out that the storm track went a little south and that Kissimmee, Florida decided it had all the resources it needed to handle its outages. It was at that time that the FMEA talked to our MEUW and said, can you send your Wisconsin crews to the city of Lakeland and Lakeland Electric, another municipal. Lakeland has 128,000 customers. We've got like 12, 13,000 customers, so they're a sizable municipal. They also have 412 full-time employees. We're in the 20 range. Yet, we went down there and we departed for Lakeland, Florida. It was a 10-hour trip. Lakeland had 62% of its people out of power. On Friday at 11 a.m., our crews were dispatched and arrived in Lakeland, and they started making good progress. By the end of the day, on Friday, Lakeland cut their outages down to 38,000. Wisconsin crews and the rest of their crews, I think 600 crews or crew members total responded to Lakeland. They were able to get the, over the weekend, so as of Monday, October 14th at 2 p.m., Lakeland reported that there were still 3,400 people out of power. So we're on like day 4. They're making pretty good progress. But they said it was gonna take probably like another 48 hours to restore the rest of the people's power because the stuff that was left was backyard and easement areas where it's tough and difficult to get to. As of 2 p.m. today, Lakeland reported they only had 803 people out, which is amazing work by all crews involved. I called or texted our Oconomowoc line mechanics to see how they were doing, and they said that they were hanging services today, just like Lakeland reported that it was gonna be small backyard stuff, and that they were expected to be released and start heading home tomorrow. So it's gonna take them a couple days to get back, but I just wanted to demonstrate how, a small, municipal utility like us and the band of brothers and sisters in the, industry, how you can make numbers and make a difference by going down and, helping other municipals. We hope that never happens in Oconomowoc, that we need to call on mutual aid, but we have that ability to do that, and you can count on that if we ever needed it, the other municipals would respond and help us out too. So I just wanted to give our crews kudos, for going down there, and our city some kudos for, offering up the help selfishly and letting our resources go down there to help out in the smallest way possible, but made a big impact.
Well done, Kevin, and for you and your whole team, we really appreciate it, and we appreciate that update. Let's give them a round of applause, guys. Do you have any other staff reports? With no other staff reports, do we have any comments from Alderman? Alderman Maroney.
This goes right along with what Kevin just brought up. When these things happen, municipalities, states get together and contribute to help. Karen Spiegelberg couldn't be here tonight, but she wanted me to read something. This is an initiative that we're doing to help the hurricane victims, North Carolina and Florida. I'll just start here. Good evening, council members and all present. I wanted to make you aware of an initiative I am heading up to help the people of North Carolina and Florida who have been ravaged by hurricanes. There has been a lot of upfront help for these folks, but I am looking to do a second wave type collection. Items delivered a few weeks later, when it always seems to be the media who have forgotten those people. As you may remember, in 2020, we formulated the concept of Oconomowoc Responds. This was more so internally to serve our fellow citizens during COVID. Now we have the opportunity to share the generosity of Oconomowoc outside of our city limits. With the mayor and the chief and the captain of police behind me, we will be looking to collect essential items and truck to the affected areas. The police department will help with connecting us directly with law enforcement agencies who are willing to distribute the items. Mayor Magnus is hoping to secure one of 2 semi-trucks for transportation of the items, possibly from Target or Roundy's. I will be coordinating the actual collection effort. We will be pushing this out in a couple of weeks via newspaper, social media, and word of mouth. We have heard that they are doing well with water, food, and clothes, so our emphasis will be items such as paper towels, diapers, wipes, sanitizing wipes, trash bags, new blankets, towels, toiletries, etc. We are a generous and giving community, and so I look to us responding with love and concern. I will keep you posted as I set all this into overdrive. Karen.
Thank you. Any other comments from Alderman? Alderman Cloth.
I just want to remind everybody that next Tuesday, the 22nd, starts in-person early voting here at City Hall. The hours are from 8 until 4:30. That goes from Tuesday until the 25th of October. And then Monday, October 28th, again, from 8 until 4:30. And then Tuesday, the 29th, until Friday, November 1st, from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And also just want to thank the clerk's office for staying open until 7 p.m. for those couple days to make it more accessible for people to vote.
Great. Other comments from Alderman? Seeing no further comments, I have a proclamation to read from the mayor. Whereas on October 6, 1964, the United States Congress designated October 15th of each year as White Cane Safety Day, and whereas blind and severe visual impairment affected approximately 109,000 Wisconsin residents, and whereas the majority of these persons use travel aids such as a white cane or a service animal to get around on public streets, sidewalks, and places of public accommodation. And whereas these travel aids are universally recognized as symbols representing visual loss. Whereas the Wisconsin white cane law requires that motorists come to a full stop before approaching closer than 10 feet to a pedestrian who is using a white cane or service animal. And whereas greater awareness of the white cane law leads to safer, more attentive driving in general, enhancing the safety of all pedestrians, including children, elders, and people with disabilities. And whereas the communities have the opportunity to implement many proven features to enhance the safety of all pedestrians, including sidewalks, accessible pedestrian signals, and curb ramps. Now therefore, I, Robert P. Magnus, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, October 15th, 2024, as White Cane Safety Day. In witness hereof, I hereto set my hand and cause the official seal of the City of Oconomowoc on this 15th day of October in 2024. With no further comments from the aldermen, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Waiting for